Today we have a two-vessel angioplasty here. Dr. Anuj is the primary operator. I am Dr. Rajiv Menon and Dr. Devrao. We have Kantamma here, who is our senior scrub nurse, and Lakshmi is a senior technician and who will be assisting us in this angioplasty. Dr. Anuj will just go through the brief history of this patient, and then we'll show you the angio pictures.
This is a 60-year-old lady who came in with an anterval MI. With the left ventricular dysfunction of moderate delivery dysfunction. She was in frank pulmonary edema at that point in time. We stabilized her and then did the angiogram. It was an evolved MI basically, and we did the angiogram. The angiogram basically showed a mid-LAD disease and an RCA disease. Now the cardiac viability is there. So this is what the angio was, seen minus. Next. It is a thrombus containing disease, lesion. It's very complex with a complex plaque.
Can you you show us the cine, please? And the viability is based on what?
Basically, we did a cardiac MR.
A cardiac MR for viability. All right.
A cardiac MR is showing a viable myocardium. There's 25% scar and 75% is viable.
Okay.
We go ahead with the case. What are your thoughts on the thing?
This patient actually has a two-vessel disease, LAD and RCA. We thought we'll tackle the LAD first and then go on to the RCA angioplasty.
You'd show us some more pictures, please?
Yeah.
Maybe an
original angio.
An AP cranial, it's almost a mid-LAD kind of a situation.
Right.
Scene more. Next.
This looks pretty straightforward.
I think we'll go ahead and cross the lesion.
Yeah, this is pretty okay. Have you done something already, or you're just going to start it now?
No, we're just ready to start actually.
Right.
Yeah, the right coronary injection. Okay.
Epicranial.
What wire are you using?
This is a Galio extra support.
Okay.
The soft tip.
Any thoughts about the stenting strategy? Would you like to go ahead with the direct stenting, or because it's a recent MI and there seems to be some thrombus there?
Yeah. Actually, the lesion appears a little tight. A little pre-dilatation would help. Maybe with a 2mm balloon.
The only dilemma we had was there is a distal thrombus in there, which could probably get embolized. But being a very thin vessel, probably post-dilatation or during stent expansion, we may not be able to go to very high pressures, which may again lead us to a distal dissection. So I think we would pre-dilate and then go ahead.
Yeah, I think another important thing, have you ever used this newer stent, the M-Guard stent in this type of situation?
No, I personally do not have any experience with it.
Yeah, in one patient we did use, was the question regarding M-Guard stent?
Yeah.
We did a few patients with M-Guard stent, and though we have not personally done it, but in our institute we have done it. And generally the results have been okay with it. We didn't get any slow flow or no flow after using the M-Guard stent. So of course the experience is quite limited, so we need to still wait and see.
The patient is on a GP2B3A inhibitor?
We had given it in the earlier situation during admission.
Okay.
But in general, as a policy, if you see, if you post-dilate and expand stents with high pressures, especially when there's evidence of thrombus, there's definitely more incidence of slow flow, what we have noticed.
Yes.
So you select a proper size stent, appropriate size stent, and expand it to whatever you want at one go, and then come out. If you are keep going on doing post-dilatations with there is more incidence of flow.
See, actually the vessel has also grown now.
Yes. Yes. You'll probably need a 3.5 now.
Give him some.
Initially, we were thinking about 2.5, 2.75, but it appears as if it will accommodate a 3 mm stent.
Yeah, that's the advantage. Suppose you are suspecting some underfilled vessel. If you dilate it and give some NTG, then probably...
I've just given some NTG actually.
Yeah. You get an idea about the size of the vessel after tight stenosis, how much it is. This is some for benefit of some of the youngsters. Seniors should excuse us. The other side vessel is looking very big, and this particular vessel distal to the lesion is looking small. That always indicates that could be underfilled vessel, and you could try using predilatation, giving NTG, so that proper sized vessel could be done. If you have decided to put 2.5, seeing that previous, it would have been under for this vessel. So that's why it's very important to have NTG given and proper appropriate size stent selected. Now all of you would agree this will easily take a 3 mm stent.
Yeah, Dr. Srinivas Kumar, we are taking a 3x20 Promus element.
Okay. Can you just show some details? The Promus element is actually a newer version of the Boston Scientific stent, which is made up out of platinum material, and it's more radio opaque compared to the older version of the stents. Probably you would see it yourself. That's fine. You can proceed with the...
It's basically made on a different kind of a material. The balloon is of a different material, but the inflation and deflation times are very low.
What was the balloon size that you used?
It was a 12 millimeter, 2 into 12.
2 into 12, so 20 will be all right, yeah.
So normally for these patients like this, normally the other strategy would have been like a simple going through a aspiration catheter, even if you don't see a lot of thrombus, and just have an aspiration, one or two runs of aspiration and put in a stent directly.
Yeah, but it cleared up quite well. That's why we didn't do Promus. Otherwise, if the thrombus was there, then they would have done it. Generally, as a policy in our institute, we did definitely do thrombectomy if there's a thrombus, but it opened up quite well. Not much evidence of thrombus. They're proceeding directly with stenting.
Dr. Rajeev,
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
is it routine that you do pre-dilatation in all cases? Because last case also we have seen that it is pre-dilated.
Not necessary actually. It depends upon the type of lesion and the type of stent which you are using, and what are the characteristics of the lesion which we are dealing with. So in case if we are comfortable, we feel it's a soft lesion, a thrombus containing lesion, we don't think that the stent expansion is going to be an issue, then we can usually go ahead with direct stenting. Nowadays, in today's day and age, with more of DS being used, we are more and more again going back towards the pre-dilatation era, basically because we want to see the lesion characteristics. That makes us feel more comfortable, you know, that the lesion has opened up well before we actually insert the stent.
Also in an elderly person where there's a lot of calcium, probably if the uniform stent expansion is also an issue.
Yeah, pretty good.
You people are looking smart in that ACVC India caps, man. Can you just turn this side so that we can see you better? Can you zoom up on that faces, please? Anyway.
I think you want him to zoom on the cap rather than on our faces.
Okay. Anyway, result
is
giving.
They need to finish this case a little faster, because the stress of this was again to have an excellent demonstration of palavalvular leak. The last case we thought would have a most interesting one. Nageshwara and Raghav just scrubbed for it.
Actually, if they are ready, we can actually go ahead with that case.
No, you just finish off the right also. Okay. Because they'll just, having started, we'll just take another 5 minutes and finish off. Then, if you understand it, if you see it, this Promus element is slightly more radiopaque. As you see your impressions from the last stent, the BVS was totally not opaque at all with just markers. Then the other Xience prime which you used in the OM had radiopacity, but this is the radiopacity which has actually to the maximum. There are some advantages and some disadvantages coming up with such increased radiopacity. The advantage being you can see it very well expanded. There is no doubt of any underexpansion of the stent. But the disadvantage which comes with it is probably if there is some material protrusion or some stuff inside, you may be missing it out. So anything in life doesn't come with only always positives. But the advantages, other advantages which the company claims at least is the material is has more radial strength, and it is more resistant, so it can expand well even in calcified lesions and so on and so forth. The data is just shows that it is equally as good as Xience.
One of the major issues which we face is especially in osteal lesions, where the first generation stents, their radial strength have been found to be superior compared to the second generation DS. In those type of situations, probably these type of stents will have a role where you can really go high on the pressures, and the chances of recoil are quite less compared to the second generation DS.
Yeah, we actually had one more osteal disease for this. That was the idea of putting it, but we ended up taking this because of some patient issues that couldn't be taken. Okay.
Epicranial.
We are again thankful to all the industry, whichever cases which are being done live in any hospital, in any place in the country, the products are all offered free to patients.
More in the middle rather than...
I think there's a tight lesion. You can go ahead and...
We'll probably pre-dilate this as well.
Yeah, same balloon you can use it to pre-dilate.
Because, I think LAD was pretty tight and was calcific. I think this also would...
As a policy of shift over from generally from femoral to radial, our procedure times, one more thing we noticed is shifted dramatically, the times have decreased significantly. Initial concerns was when you shift to radial, probably there's more exposure. What we found is, on the other hand, there's significant less exposure to operators, because the procedures tend to get, but it's not true for all the types of lesions. Dr. Somaraju will immediately question saying that if you find a very complicated left main bifurcation or very stuff in which some things are needed, with CTO or measured, you may still go. But routine, like cases like this, it is a lot of advantage for patients to be very comfortable. Immediately they sit up and take tea, coffee, and our changeover times from the lab, we are able to do more number of cases with less load. Dr. Mati and my other colleague Sushil from Colombia were mentioning that when the number of cases were done being our lab, they were surprised. We say that we are twice more efficient than the labs in US, because we have less labs but more work, where there is, situation is they have 4 to 6 labs and numbers are almost same. Or probably they would do slightly more, but per lab patient issue, see, we are quite effective, they say. Anyway.
Any comments from the panel regarding the distal lesion?
Yeah, that doesn't look that critical. The one near the crux.
We thought we'll manage that medically.
Yeah, he also feels the same.
We think the same way.
No, I think there is a lot of debate about the culprit vessel in multivessel disease with acute myocardial infarction, whether to stage the other lesions or to do it simultaneously. I think the people here should take this idea that any patient who comes with acute myocardial infarction, the idea is to do the culprit vessel and tackle the other arteries if the patient is hemodynamically unstable and have critical disease. And the other arteries should be tackled preferably after 4 to 6 weeks, not before discharge. Before discharge of the patient, sometimes you can do it with logistic regions. Many times, many of the hospitals actually don't charge for the patient again. This could be logistic region that you can do it before discharge, but the more and more data, and in fact the recent data has confirmed the same thing, that the patient who have multivessel disease with acute myocardial infarction, it is better to do the culprit vessel at that moment and stage the other lesions maybe after 4 to 6 weeks after the proper assessment of the lesions.
That's exactly what Marty clarified yesterday when the question was asked about this multivessel in his talk. He exactly told the same. Unless the patient has hemodynamic instability or some particular reason, generally they don't, even in their institute they were telling that they would discharge and call them back. But if patient has some issue to be tackled, like severe early dysfunction, not able to come out as the patient is not stable, they would do again in pre-discharge. Unless patient is in cardiogenic shock, there is no reason why it should be done immediately, same phase. The next thing comes whether you do it pre-discharge or after the discharge, calling back. He said unless patient has some issues, generally they would like to send them back, assess about the significance of ischemia, and then they would stage it. That's what you said is that. That's perfect. What is the plan to take? Which size or what?
We are just measuring it with a balloon.
We thought the diameter should be around 3, and the length we are just trying to decide.
Actually, that question is not relevant in this patient because this
he
patient
just brought
not,
it as a point of discussion. Rishi brought it. I agree that this is not the scenario here. As a point of discussion, just for the benefit of everybody, you are discussing that.
Yeah, this is a 20 mm balloon.
Yeah.
I think 20 mm should be okay.
This is for a benefit of youngsters. I'm repeating it here. In spite of your assessment and in spite of your QCA measurements, if you have any doubt, this is the one best way to measure is pass a G balloon and check the length and use it for the stent placement. But only one thing you need to be careful is once these G balloons, sometimes they get elongated a little. If you are just measuring it correctly, you should always preferable to take 1-2 mm slightly longer than what you measured the balloon, because the balloon edges tend to get flared up a little and the size could be a millimeter more. That's a precaution to be taken. But here
you can withdraw the radio opaque portion across the lesion and you can...
that is while going itself, or the other way what Dr. Padmanabhan mentioned is the radio opaque portion of the wire is about 29 mm, but it may vary from wire to wire. What wire we are using here, Galio, generally has about that. Then you can measure it with that also. But always be careful not to come out of the lesion totally, because again there could be some issues. Never ever try see that wire should not come back, especially after you predilate with the balloon.
Dr. Srinivas Kumar, coming back to the question of multivessel stenting, what is the opinion of the house in acute coronary syndrome? Would they like to go ahead with a complete revascularization, or
I think
again the culprit lesion?
Rajiv, I think you are busy in selecting the balloon. That same thing we discussed.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay, we have taken a biomatrix here, a biomatrix stent from biosensors.
Yeah, can you show?
You can just project on that.
The advantage which the company claims with biomatrix is it has a biodegradable polymer. Probably you didn't have the stent of same make, of the same size? Usually we prefer to take of the same make, but probably some. Okay. So 20 mm probably is there in only BioLMS. 24. Okay. So this BioLMS, can you just project that? Okay. So 324. Biomatrix probably is advantage they claim is a biodegradable polymer with a limus drug on it. When they compared this with Cypher, okay, that's okay. They compared this with Cypher in leaders trial, it was found to be superior, the results, and it was also found to be superior in the bifurcation subgroup and the complex patient subgroup. But I am not interested in any data. I keep telling the company nowadays in comparing with Cypher or Taxus of Esterera, because they've anyway proved to be inferior. We are more looking towards comparisons between positive newer stents like maybe Resolute versus Zymes, that like all-comers trial, and that would be more interesting for us operators.
Srinivas, I would like the opinion of the house. How often is it that if you have to use 2 drug-eluting stents in the same person, you use different stents?
Yeah, that's what I was asking them why they took it, because the size was not available. That's why I asked them why did it. Generally, it is preferable to use stents of the same make in a patient, unless you have some instant restenosis and some particular issues. Generally, we tend to use stents of same make. There could be some other reasons also, as you understand, but here probably because of size non-availability, probably trying to show that. Most of the patients' stents are on consignment, I understand, especially even in places like CARE where high volumes are done. Sometimes we find it difficult to find, especially when you require 2 similar sizes stents, it becomes all the more challenging. We'll be forced to use some other company make, but for benefit of everybody, generally we try to use the same make stents when you require 2 stents in a patient. What I was trying to recommend to the companies is if they can design packages for multivessel stenting, when a patient needs 2 or 3 stents, the cost should come down. We can become more cost effective, and competition surgery costs could come down compared to surgery. This company came forward with that actually. We have a package of multivessel stenting with BioLMS.
Srinivas, I have one very important question. That now many companies has come with bioabsorbable polymer, and now there are a lot of stents, newer stents with good polymer like the Endeavor Resolute, and then you have Giants V, which is one of the very biocompatible polymers, quite safe, and with very little stent thrombosis. What is your take? Do you still feel that the bioabsorbable polymer had little advantage over the biostable polymer?
Probably we are moving gradually from... do you have any problem there, or are we interrupting in discussion? Is it okay? What are you are inflating the stent?
Yeah, we have inflated the stent, and as you can see, the original lesion site There is still some kind of a residual stenosis which is left over.
Okay.
We went up to 12 atmospheres and it seems to have conformed to the vessel quite well. Our plan is to just take a short balloon and then post-dilate the proximal segment.
I think you can just take a picture. Probably it was looking like the proximal portion was slightly underexpanded.
Underexpanded, yes.
So coming to discussion, what you're saying, gradually we are moving out from polymer-based stents to no polymer-based stents. I think that's why I was particular, though the company was not keen initially to participate, and probably requested them, we requested the other company which has no polymer also, one of the sites, to demonstrate as a technology we wanted everybody to understand. So compared to a bad polymer of Cypher to stable polymer of Zynes and Resolute, and then probably biodegradable polymer of Biomatrix, and next is no polymer at all of Yukon, then probably that is the stents how they are evolving. But only challenge which comes is when you are taking a stent without a polymer, the drug delivery won't be optimal as you need it. So you can't have all the advantages not having any disadvantage. That's how it comes in life. But if you can deliver the drug according to what you want, without a polymer, that could be the best.
I think I think there had been a recent meta-analysis of this bioabsorbable polymer versus the earlier stents, and it found that there hardly any difference between the two. Of course, that the meta-analysis was up to 2 years, and up to 2 years that the overall event rate and stent thrombosis, MACE were almost similar.
But one thing we know now pretty clearly is any thrombosis, if at all if it's happening, it could be because polymer related.
Correct.
Drug is anyway gone. So then polymer, if there is no polymer which can produce the trouble, logically also
it is expected. Logically it looked like that probably after 2 years or so that benefit will
start dilating from there.
See, it's
what is the status in the other lab? Because we have left with 35 minutes. Are they okay in the other lab or?
We'll just check and get back to you.
Okay.
This is a 3x8 non-compliant balloon.
This is another very important issue to note. Many times non-compliant balloons are not available on shelf, but whenever you find stent underexpanded like that, there is no point taking a compliant balloon and inflating there, because again when you inflate the balloon, it keeps on expanding in the place where it is already expanded. If it is a semi-compliant or compliant balloons, it is better to take a non-compliant balloon and give proper inflation there, and then only that can do the job. Otherwise, still stents remain unexpanded. So
now it appears to have opened up.
Yeah, it has opened up now.
We are at 16 atmospheres.
Yes, now it's given way. It's a paradox of sorts, because on one hand we are thinking of giving away the polymer, and last night we saw what one would take as, in crude words, you know, the pearl pet bottles that we keep in our refrigerators for storing the water. That is PET, the polyethylene terephthalate. And that is a layer of that is being used for coronary arteries. That is a material which the environmentalists say does not degrade even when it has been inside the soil for more than 15 years. That's a problem with the plastic. We want the same material to get into our body. So it's a paradox of sorts, that on one hand we are wanting to give away the polymers, and we're adopting polymers for this particular MGuard.
Yeah, Dr. Srinivas Kumar, the information which we have from the other lab is that they will require another 5 or 10 minutes.
Okay.
I think if the panel has any questions regarding this case, we can have some discussion in the meantime.
The question which some of the panelists raised was, generally we tend to use similar make stents. You used another one because you probably, the size was not, that's what I predicted and told. Is it the same?
Yeah, that's true. We didn't have that size actually.
Anyway, that is not a big issue because mostly this is also DES taken. You should feel more bad because if you are forced to put a bare metal, but I think most of the stents nowadays are reasonably good. And that distal lesion, anyway we thought appears to be non-significant, we'll leave it?
Yeah. In this view it looked like a little tighter.
Can you show epicranial? Can you show epicranial?
Cranial it doesn't look good.
Here it doesn't look tight.
PDA has some diffuse disease, but not the distal.
The distal vessel looks all right, especially when you have a disease borderline, And when you have another vessel, some complications which like bifurcation or some stuff which is not very straightforward or clear, our threshold to intervene there should be less, I feel, because whenever you are having a, suppose if it is straightforward relative thing, there is a 70%, 80% lesion, you think you could still be okay. I'm not telling you should dilate it if you feel it is not important. But our threshold to intervene should be less if there is a chance of problem happening in a borderline lesion.
Especially so when the area of perfusion is less.
So area of perfusion is less, then obviously you won't do anything. But even otherwise, if you have another big vessel coming up there or some bifurcation having some trouble, calcium, you tend to avoid doing anything because you lose the advantage of even the thing which is done proximally. I think that was an excellent demonstration of two-vessel stenting probably in 20 minutes. We should congratulate you, Dr. Rajiv and Anuj. I would like to mention here to everybody that after these young two colleagues joined me, many of you were questioning me that how are you able to handle so many things here. We should be very fortunate to all the younger colleagues and team and our seniors for being taking care of a lot of burden out of me. Nowadays we go for elective stentings. Most of the emergency work is done by Dr. Rajiv and Anuj. We are very high volume primary PCI centers. We can confidently say that any time patient comes to care hospital, whether it's day or night, we have 3 people available. One is senior, another is junior, and a fellow cardiologist available to take care. That's how our volumes of primary PCS are quite high. And one more point is, even we have one scheme called, you are from North, that's why I just mentioning, we have some scheme called Arogyasri where patients get permission within no time. So once the patient lands in emergency, we take permission phone, then immediately get approval and we go for primary PCI. I don't remember when we have thrombolized a patient of acute MI. Anyway, you go to other lab, switch over to other lab, we can see the patient data till then.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Srinivas Kumar,
Yeah.
you don't feel that PD lesion is significant?
That's what we discussed. Though,
Yeah, that is what we were discussing, that the PD lesion appears to be significant, but the proximal lesion is borderline before crux, and it is a complex intervention. That the probably involving PD and proximal, the distal crux lesion probably jeopardize the large PLV branch as well. And if it is in a borderline situation, maybe that probably it is better to manage it medically than doing something. That is what Dr. Srinivas was
The
discussing.
size of the PDA is also definitely less than 2 millimeters.
yeah, and the big distal vessel is more bigger.
Actually,
yeah, DLVB is bigger than
Yeah.
that.
Switch over to second lab. We hear sound from second lab. Prasad, switch the camera to second lab. Nageshwarao, we are hearing your voice, please. Dr. Nageshwarao. Nageshwarao. I am Dr. Srinivas Kumar here. Are you able to hear us?
Stop, no live.
Hello, Nageshwarao. It's okay, it's a complex case. In what stage you are, you can just show once. We again, otherwise we'll go to angio CD presentation. We can come back to you if you are going to take more time. But you can just mention about the case and then details and what stage you are. Then we can come back to you. As you understand, the paravalvular leak sometimes could take some little longer time. We are with you, don't worry, but somebody can present the patient data, show the TE picture, and then at what stage are you, you can mention, then we'll come back to you again after. It will take an hour for angio CD session, don't worry. Work coolly, but can you request somebody to present the echo data? Are you able to hear us? I don't think they're hearing us.
No, audio is off.
yeah, I think probably that.
Only video.
Ajay?
They can't hear us.
They can't hear us. 1 minute, sir.
This is just to discuss the paravalvular leak situations. Then normally this is a difficult situation to handle, and then what are the options available?
Yeah, we wanted to show varied type of cases. Kim's had some experience before, and then we did 1 or 2 cases before. We thought one of us should do. Initially, Dr. Jain requested us to do. Yeah?
Yeah, Dr. Rajiv here.
Yeah.
Dr. Nageshwarao has just requested about 5 minutes. The reason is he is slightly busy trying to...
No, we are
get
able
over
to
the
see him.
catheters.
Rajiv, we are able to see him.
Yes.
What I requested is somebody of pediatric colleague can present the patient data
Yes,
and show
we
the
are-
echo picture.
Yeah, we are going to do it.
And then meanwhile, we can see at what stage they are. Otherwise, if they want more time, we can give them, we can have the angio CD presentation and then come back to you. There's no problem. You can take your time.
Yeah, we are doing it. Go ahead.
Dr. Srinivas Kumar, we are not ready.
Okay.
We want 5 minutes time. You can have one angio presentation by that time.
No problem, no problem.
Okay.
You can show the patient data, please. Yeah, go ahead. We can see the slide.
Department. He is diagnosed to have a rheumatic heart disease as 13 years of age, and he underwent mitral valve repair with prosthetic mechanical valve, that is Star Edwards, in June 2005 at Tirupati. Now he has presented recently with the dyspnea, palpitation, and paroxysmal nocturnal dyspnea, and there was no previous history of infective endocarditis after this procedure of MVR. His last INR was less than 2. On examination, his weight was 46 kg. There was apex pulse deficit of 16 per minute, and it was irregular pulse, suggestive of atrial fibrillation. His blood pressure was normal, 120 by 70 millimeters of mercury. On cardiovascular examination, there was metallic click which was present. There was pansystolic murmur at the apical area. So this was his ECG, which shows that it's a half standardization ECG with irregular rhythm, which is suggestive of atrial fibrillation, and there is increased LV forces. There are deep Q waves in V5 and V6, suggestive of LV volume overload. This is his X-ray, which shows it is chest X-ray PA view, which is situs soletis levocardia, which shows that there is mild cardiomegaly with cardiothoracic ratio of 0.6. There is grade 1 pulmonary venous congestion present and dilated left atrium, left ventricle, and double shadow of LA we can see, and there is prominent pulmonary artery marks. This is his echo, which is done in parasternal long axis view, which we can see that there is left atrium, left ventricle, aortic valve, and there is a metallic valve at mitral position, which is there in C2, and there is a leak which is present at the mitral aortic junction. Same view in zoom, we can see that leak very clearly here, which is little away from the aortic valve, but basically from the paravalvular area there is a leak, and there is no leak from the valve side itself, or there is no in situ stenosis. Here we can see that the leak size is around 4.5 to 5 mm, and it is quite away from the aortic valve, which is around 9 millimeters. This is transesophageal echo at 110 degree, which is equivalent to parasternal long axis, to better delineate that leak in the same area which we saw in the transthoracic echo. It is measuring 4.5 to 5 mm, and it is quite away from the aortic valve. We can see this in better T at 110 degrees, a single leak which is present in the paravalvular area. So this leak was away from the aortic valve around 9 millimeters. So in view of LALV dilatation and symptomatic status, we decided to close this by device since it was away from the aortic valve, and the proposed device is duct occluder 10 by 8 or 8 by 6. The hardware which we thought will be required are the sheath, right femoral venous, right femoral arterial sheath, 5 French RC diagnostic catheter to cross the defect, O35 angulated glide wire, transeptal puncture kit, and 7 French delivery sheet with 25 mm gooseneck snare wire. So these were the hardwares which are taken, and now I'll like to hand over to the procedure to Dr. Nageshwar Rao and Dr. Raghav Raju.
Dr. Srinivas Kumar, you know the history of this patient. He has a chronic rheumatoid heart disease, underwent mitral valve replacement for chronic mitral regurgitation. Okay. Yeah. Subsequently, he did well for a couple of years, and he received a Star Edwards valve, And then recently he began to have a dyspnea and exertion and symptomatic, and he was in heart failure. Then further investigations revealed that he has significant paravalvular leak. The main prosthetic valve, standard valve is functioning well, but the mitral regurgitation is because of paravalvular regurgitation. Then the steps are that the patient, you can listen to our echocardiographer.
Yeah, we have heard about the echo, sir. You can proceed.
No, we just want to show you some pictures. So can you please project the echo 3D picture? Dr. Pallavik, go ahead. Just we'll take 1 minute of echo pictures.
Yeah, 3D we didn't see. You can show 3D picture, right?
You can see that transesophageal echocardiogram 114 degrees, a paravalvular leak defect is seen. Next, please. And that is what the real time. Next. The next. That is what the leak. It is going superiorly roof of the LA, which is dilated. The LA dimensions are around 40 millimeters. Next, please. Yeah, that's what. You can see the gap between the aortic wall to the paravalvular leak and the prosthetic wall a little bit away to the paravalvular leak. Next, please.
Yeah, these things we saw before, Nagesh Rao. It's ideal. Looks like ideal case suited away from it, and a defect looks smaller. You show 3D pictures. This transesophageal picture.
So right. This is the 3D color. Yeah. What we wanted to show you. 3D color. You can see the paravalvular leak jet is going. Next. Next.
For the benefit of everybody, can you explain the orientation?
You can see the defect.
Nagesh Rao.
Next.
Nagesh Rao.
Yeah.
Many people won't be comfortable with 3D. Can you just explain to them that what is what, which looks like what? Some of the basics of this, which side is looking what? Now are you analyzing it?
Karnakar, you please stay one area.
Did you hear the question?
Sir, this is what the 3D color flow mapping.
Okay.
What we can see is the color is going to the LA.
Mm-hmm.
That is what the paravalvular defect in 3D. You can rotate the track ball so that you can see the 360 degrees wherever you want. Rotate.
Yeah. Most of us.
This is from the left ventricular outflow tract end-phase view. Come.
Most of us feel that 3D may not be of additional value in many situations, but here is the one where you can rotate it and see whichever you are. So probably it helps in interventions. Yeah.
Don't rotate. You can see from LA side there is a suture mark and you can see the defect. That's what the small defect here. It's a some 25% of the defect is cut. Next. So that's what the defect is profiled. You can see from the LA side. The next picture, just beside prosthetic wall, the 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock position. Next, please.
It will be like surgeon seeing it on the table.
So that is what the defect. The next, go fast, go fast, go fast. So that's what 3D reconstruction. You can see the prosthetic valve as well as the paravalvular defect and go back. As well as the grids are given. It is difficult to measure the paravalvular defect by real time 2D because most of the times it's a oval shaped defect as well as 3D. So we have used the grids there which measures around 6 into 7 millimeters defect there. So I'll give it to Dr. Raghav Raju. He will explain a couple of cine pictures. Scene plus. The first go to panel. Fluoro. Switch over to fluoro. First.
Yeah.
Right from the beginning.
Yeah, we're seeing the fluoro. Go ahead, Nagesh.
Yeah. To begin with, the patient was anesthetized and we have accessed the right femoral vein and the right femoral artery. And then after accessing the vein and the artery, we cross the aortic valve, and as usual, Dr. Nagesh Rao is very enthusiastic to cross from the aorta. He made an attempt and then found that it was very easy to cross the paravalvular leak retrogradely. So he felt that better to do the procedure retrogradely because the paravalvular leak, when you try to cross the antegradally from the left atrium, sometimes it's very difficult. So once we have decided that it's easy to cross.
So what? Go back. So what we have done, Dr. Raghavaraju performed a transseptal puncture. As usual, you know, is yesterday's is a discussion, and he could puncture in just 2-3 minutes. Then we thought we'll cross the paravalvular leak. You all saw the jet is going from left ventricle to the left atrium. So I used basic fundamental principle just to flotate the glide wire so that it can go along with the paravalvular leak to LA, like what we crossed, and I demonstrated a couple of days back when I am crossing the ventricular septal defect. Seen plus. So here essentially LAO view, we put the RCA catheter in left ventricular outflow tract. I pull gently the glide wire from the left ventricular apex towards the left ventricular outflow tract, because the defect is seen just above the valve here in the left ventricular outflow tract. You can see we did not do any, there is no major technique involved here. The glide wire just slipped off into the paravalvular defect and then into the LA. So that's what the procedure. We had little bit of problem to snare it. Scene plus, we exchanged that. The reason was we have only, unfortunately, 20 millimeter snare is available, not more than that. The LA looks a little bit dilated. However, after 5 to 6 attempts, we could snare that with using RCA guiding catheter. So we snared and we performed the arteriovenous loop, so-called railroad loop, and then we could actually negotiate our guiding catheter, delivery catheter, easily into left ventricle by holding myself and Dr. Raghavaraju. We performed a little bit of pressure and tug to the defect. So sheath slipped off into the LV, and we could see the LV hemodynamic monitoring. Please, you can show the hemodynamic monitoring here.
Nageshwara, one point.
LV EDP, LV LA mean was more than 16 millimeter. So that's not where we are.
Nageshwara, 1 minute. Actually, if you see, it's very important to see it in both the views, LAO and RAO. In LAO, if you see it, it looks very close to the prosthetic valve.
Dr. Srinivas Kumar, we can't hear you at this particular moment. We want audience poll, audience opinion, suggestions, everything.
Are you able to hear us now?
A little bit better.
Yeah. What I was suggesting was, I think you must have checked in the echo and TE how to the orifice how it went, and then probably other aspect is you have to watch this defect closely in both the views. If you see it in LAO view, it looks like initially when you are first 1 or 2 cases which you are doing, it looks like it's very close and maybe it is through prosthetic valves. But if you see the, can you go to the RAO view, please?
Yeah.
If you see the RAO view, it will be way apart from the prosthetic valve. That gives you confidence that you have gone the right path. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. Anyhow, with the TE help, we could confirm that.
He here clearly shows that you are out of
the catheter is away from the prosthetic
valve.
Delivery catheter.
That's how you can confirm in seeing both the views. Yeah. Even you check in TE, you
so we are going to take the device. At this point of time, I would like to ask a panelist, Dr. Snehal and your colleagues are there. Can you just introduce the panelists to us, because we don't see them other than you.
Dr. Snehal, Dr. Padmanabhan, Dr. Rishi Gupta and Dr. Sandeep.
What type of device you would like to
Dr. Nageshwara, I feel that the device was a little oval in shape, where the defect was a little oval in shape on 3D echocardiography.
Yeah, absolutely correct. It's a oval in shape. The shortest diameter measures around 5 millimeter. The longest diameter is 6.5, lesser, just short of 7 millimeters.
So what kind of a device you are planning to use now?
We discussed and we are thinking duct occluder first generation. We are debating ourselves here between 10.8 and 10.12. 10.8 and 12.10, yeah.
10.8 should be.
10.8? I think what the audience feels, I think we feel it's 10.8.
I think 10.8 should be comfortable, I think.
Dr. Snehal, now structural heart disease, congenital people are becoming very aggressive. Wherever you find holes, you keep closing with this duct occluders.
Any other device you can think of, Dr. Nageshwara, at this stage?
I think given situation, probably vascular plug second generation also may be ideal, looking at the defect which is located a little bit closer to the aortic wall. However, Dr. Raghavaraju, everybody felt that if you look at the transesophageal echo, the distance is around 7 to 8 millimeter. Probably we thought we may get on with first generation duct occluder, probably 10-8. We do agree with you, probably.
Okay.
And one more reason I feel you should do whenever you're doing live cases, you take the device with which you have done cases before, with which you are more comfortable, and go with the previous plan. Go ahead with Nageshwara.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, sir. We'll go ahead, sir.
Can you focus on the device, please? Can the camera focus on the device and make the device be, that
so
bigger?
we are using a 10-8 LifeTech device here.
Zoom,
the
please.
LifeTech device can go 10-8 easily through 6 French sheath. However, we put a 7 French sheath here, thinking that this kind of tortuosity kind of situation, it is better to use additional buddy wire several times. So that's what we are actually thinking. 7-8 braided sheath, we took non-braided sheath like Mullens and all. You may anticipate some kind of kinks and all during advancing the device. So we put a braided sheath here, 7 French, and let us see whether device can go easily through 7 French with the guide wire inside. The cable which we have taken is a little bit stiffer cable. This is 6 French cable. Usually the delivery cable comes with 3.5 or 6 cables. Okay. We are going ahead. We'll just see whether we can go with the glide wire which is already present here. Go ahead. Go ahead. It doesn't go. We are going to sacrifice the looping here. We are going to break the loop. Please advance the sheet. We have continuous LV pressures. Push this. Push. No, you don't pull. Push this wire. I am going to break from there. Raju, we can remove that. One second, sir. I will just do that. Yeah, go ahead. 1 minute. 1 minute. Now you can break it. It's sometimes important to keep the right coronary catheter close to the delivery catheter called KISS technique, and we'll remove this. Now our sheath is in LV. We are ready to take the device here. Go ahead. No, go ahead. We are there. Now we will go on live TE, and then you can. It's. I think we will go to Elevo.
You are comfortable in Elevo? Down the monitor.
The initial angiographic view. Come the monitor close to us.
Angiographic view is clear.
So we are gradually coming from the LV. I don't want to deploy at this moment because there will be mitral other cardiac structures. Of course, you can tell he is a post-operative patient. So LV disc is being deployed. Show that to TE, please. Little bit going. Show the TE and fluoroscopy PIP. We haven't yet seen the defect so far, the device so far by TE, just gradually coming up. Just increase the gain. Reduce the gains a little bit. Obliterate aorta so that we will see the defect in the device.
Yeah. We are able to see the device now.
We are now able to see the device by echocardiogram. I am gently coming, very, very gently coming. Just give us a little bit of color guidance, please. I think we are tugging to that septum, looks like. Color off or give dual. Just go a little bit of anterior cut. The posterior cut, wherever the device is being profiled. So I am pulling a little bit.
Yeah, we have approximated the defect.
So you can show the aortic wall, any mechanical touching the aortic wall, long axis view, just to show that, yeah. So can we deploy here? What is your opinion?
Can we see the colors across it?
Color across that?
Yeah,
color is not seen.
it look like.
Just to show the device per se. So I think
across now. Yeah, hold on there.
RAO view.
Look like perfect.
So we deployed the device, RAO view. We'll just see in RAO view whether we have got a constriction here, the device constriction. So,
yeah.
What do you feel, Snehal?
Yeah, it looks quite good, Nageshwara.
So if everybody feels happy, satisfied, I'll request our lucky hand to release the device. So it looks reasonably okay.
Good, yeah.
I don't see, there's a mild degree of aortic regurgitation earlier, which is still present. So what do you feel?
Yeah, no, it looks
Yeah,
quite
we
good.
can deliver or deploy the device.
Can you show?
So there is no valvular interference. Prosthetic valve assessment, please. Assess the prosthetic valve. Yeah. It's a Starr Edwards valve. Unlikely that the leaflets is going to be interfered with the device. It's a ball in cage valve, earlier generation, probably which is not available at the moment. Sir, we go ahead and deploy.
You want me to deploy? Because
Yeah.
I can take
Can
the
you see
plane.
can you show us the fluoro picture, please? Fluoro?
Fluoro?
Yeah. Can you see your hand also in the other camera? Okay. Yeah,
Yeah, it's staying
means
well.
it is there. Did you hear the claps?
We have actually removed the sheath also from LA.
Yeah.
We don't have any control at the moment.
No, but it is well job done, Nageshwara.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, how easy or difficult it was to cross the leak from the LV side?
Crossing was absolutely easy. We crossed actually 2 times before we thought we'll record it, because we wanted to see how it is going. Like what we demonstrated, the ventricular septal defect crossing, it's the same, absolutely keeping the catheter bit high up and then taking the, you can show that fluoro picture if you want to see the picture. The glide wire actually slips off into LA. So we had actually problem of snaring rather than the,
crossing it.
You can see this, that picture, go back, minus.
I think we are running out of time. Thanks for excellent demonstration. Congratulations to all the team. And everybody in the hall is stunned with your excellent performance.
Yeah.
We congratulate you and thank you very much.
We thank Dr. Raghav Raju, our colleagues, cath lab staff, everybody who is supporting, and Dr. Srinivas Kumar.